Welcome to the stream. Hundreds of people in Bangladesh have gone missing over the last decade, with families saying that state agencies are behind in many of those disappearances. I'm Femi Oge.
I'm Malika Bilal. Today we'll hear from relatives pushing the government for answers and ask what these cases say about political freedoms in Bangladesh. Send your thoughts through Twitter and YouTube.
The death of a father, sister, brother or mother is one of the most emotional tests that any family can face. But when a relative just vanishes, the lack of closure makes the loss even harder to cope with. That's the situation many families in Bangladesh are facing as days without their loved one turn to months and then years.
Several families say their relatives were simply snatched away by police and paramilitaries because of their links to the political opposition or activist groups. Mayer Daak, or Mother's Call, is one organization that regularly protests for information on the whereabouts of those who are missing. Last month, families braved the heat during Ramadan to once again call for justice. Civil society groups say there have been more than 500 enforced disappearances since January 2009. That's when the Awami League-led government of current Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina came to power. And cases are still mounting. On Saturday, Hassan Mamoon, a leader within the opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party, was taken from his home by the elite Rapid Action Battalion, his family says. The RAB denies arresting Mamoon, whose precise location is unknown.
For more on this, we are joined from the Bangladeshi capital Dhaka by Sanjida Islam. She is director of Mayer Daak, that's Mother's Call, which is campaigning for the safe return of family members who have gone missing.
Tasneem Khalil is an exiled independent journalist focusing on human rights issues. He's in the Swedish city of Malmö.
Debbie Stoddard is a Secretary General at the International Federation for Human Rights, which recently released a report on missing people in Bangladesh. She joins us from Paris. We also invited representatives from several Bangladesh government offices to join us, including the Home and Foreign Ministries, but instead they sent us a statement. I will be sharing parts of that statement with you during the programme, but guess it is good to have you here to explain what is going on in Bangladesh for some families. Let me share a family picture with you. This is a very sad one. This is a mother with her son who disappeared many years ago. You're very close to this family, Sanjida. This is part of your family. Can you tell us the story about what happened to your brother?
Yeah, it's my brother, Shajidul Islam Shumon. 2013, 4th of December, he was abducted by Rapid Action Battalion. It was just before the election of 2015, 5th of January. You know, everyone knows about that election. And before that election, huge abduction happened by the law enforcement agencies in Bangladesh. And my brother, Shajidul Islam Shumon, and with him, there were 5 other friends who were staying in Basundhara. And Rapid Action Battalion team came with their double cover van and uniform and arrested them from there. And in front of plenty of eyewitnesses, actually. And from that day, we have started going to the office, law enforcement agencies everywhere, RAB office, RAB headquarters from my family, but they have denied, and they were saying that there was no operation happen on that time with them, but they were not actually even searching or taking any case. We have tried to file a general diary, we have tried to file a FIR. But police was not taking the case because we wanted to mention that RAB was arrested them. And it is like 6 years. And within these 6 years, from our side, with all these 6 families, and including on that particular day at night, 2 other persons were also abducted by RAB from our area. So 8 families, we have started doing the submitting the applications and all the legal documents to the law enforcement agencies, including the Home Ministry, RAB offices, police offices, and then all the special branch offices, all the law enforcement agency headquarters. But till now, we have never had any order of investigation or any reply from their side.
And
And
Sanjida,
beside that,
Sanjita, I thank you for sharing that story, because I know it can't be easy to talk about your missing brother in front of an international audience, and to have to relive that every time you do. So thank you for sharing it. It's powerful, and you're not alone. We got a tweet from someone who describes an attempted abduction. So this is an organization, I know Salish Kindra, they say, alert, attempted abduction of vocal Bangladesh human rights defender Noor Khan, director of human rights organization. We got a video comment from Noor himself, who talks about the experience of what he believes is this attempted abduction. Have a listen to what he told us.
When I left my office towards my house, one microbus crossed our rickshaw and they tried to stop our rickshaw. That time I jumped and back to run towards my office and enter office. I think that time I raised many questions against enforced disappearance and extrajudicial killings. For that reason, they maybe tried to abduct me. 2-3 days before, they tried to collect some information regarding my movement from our staff.
So Tasneem, his rickshaw was stopped in traffic. He ran back to the office. I mean, this sounds kind of like a harrowing experience there, but how common are stories like this? And what do you know about Noor's story?
Well, I was actually reading his story in a report that came out in Pratham today. But this is very common. We know that SUVs or microbuses are used by these agencies. Rapid Action Battalion is one, the Directorate General of Forces Intelligence is another, Detective Branch is another. So all of them use these very fancy SUVs, obviously bought using taxpayers' money, to abduct the citizens and keep them as secret prisoners. So in Bangladesh, it is a very common thing that people are abducted and they are kept in secret detention as secret prisoners. It is a one-party police state right now.
Debbie, I want to show you a clip from a report that Al Jazeera did back in February. It's about a student leader of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party who was abducted on the way to a birthday party. And this is one of our correspondents talking to his wife. Have a listen, Debbie.
Farzeena Akhter's husband was abducted on his way to a birthday party. He was a student leader of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, the main opposition force in the country.
It was on the 2nd of December 2013. It was his friend's son's birthday. He went out with 6 friends. 4 of them were standing together at one corner and the other 2 in front of a shop. Suddenly, security forces got out and picked up 2 of them and put them each in a van. Both were white.
Debbie, I'm just wondering, with all of these cases, these stories coming out of Bangladesh, are you working out who is it that is being abducted? Why are they being abducted? Are they all the same kind of people?
I think what's really scary to understand is that while the cases of people seen to oppose the ruling party have been targeted or have been highlighted, essentially the feeling is that anyone can be taken at any time. It is a very strong climate of fear. People do not feel safe, whether they are going out of their house or even staying at home by any time of the day. And in this case, simply going to a friend's birthday party puts you in a position of being grabbed. And so there doesn't seem to be very much consistency. There's no sense that, okay, if I'm a high-level organizer, I'm in danger. There are people who simply went to a rally or simply said something on Facebook and they disappeared too.
Let me share this with you, because I did say that the government of Bangladesh sent us a statement. I'm going to share this with you. I'm really intrigued as to how you respond to this. The government strongly disputes reports about so-called disappearances of people in Bangladesh. The allegations have been manufactured to discredit the government by its political opponents and have no basis in fact. In many cases, these disappearances have turned out to be attempts by people charged with crimes to avoid prosecution. Sanjita, help me out with this. There's something that your brother did. He was a criminal, perhaps.
No, actually, they can check. There was no case against him, any criminal case in the police stations. And where from our side, our family are going to them to find him out. Whoever is he, it's their responsibility to find him out, from independent country, no one can get disappeared like this way.
All right, Tasneem,
So-
you were smiling, laughing, but not in a happy way when I read that statement out.
Well, I mean, the statement, if you look at it, I mean, it takes a special kind of psychopathy to come up with this kind of apology. I mean, what they are claiming essentially is that more than 500 people have just disappeared, have just decided that they're not going to meet their mothers, they're not going to meet their daughters, they're not going to meet their son, brother, sister, and they're just going to go away to some, I don't know, Alice in Wonderland kind of a place, simply because they want to discredit the government. I mean, I was expecting the government of Bangladesh, obviously these are very smart people in charge of efficiently running a state terror campaign. They could have done better, like instead of coming up with this laughable cover story.
Tasneem, the thing is that they actually bothered to come up with some kind of manufactured excuse. But if you talk to Sanjida and to other families who have disappeared, as I did, I managed to meet with some of the families who have disappeared when I was in Bangladesh recently. They went to the police and they were not just told not to give a report. The police refused to take their report. When they went back and they kept persisting, they were not just told, chased away, but then later on threatened with being disappeared themselves because they were asking for their family.
Also, if I can add, it is not only the families that are alleging it, and it is not only, like journalists like me or human rights activists like Devi. The former Chief Justice of Bangladesh, Surendra Kumar Sinha, has written a book. In his memoir. He specifically mentioned how the DGFI actually abducts people and keeps them in a secret prison in Kochukat. Then there is another instance where a senior police officer has actually admitted during a seminar. He was bragging that, hey, do you remember we actually abducted that doctor and no one actually could, do anything to us. So he was practically bragging about this. And Bangladesh government has, whenever we bring these cases to them, first they try to deflect and then they come up with this kind of very funny apologies
comments.
And then promise to investigate, and they never do investigate these cases.
So Tasneem, I think that is why the examples that you just listed there, that is why we're seeing comments like this on YouTube. Now, this person mentions an acronym that you just mentioned. That's the Directorate General of Forces Intelligence. Shamsul Alam on YouTube says every single person in Bangladesh knows all of these disappearances are done by the RAB, the DGFI, and police. It's an absolute and known fact. He's not the only one. Someone else says, actually, this disappearance, this is actually, everyone knows the government agencies are involved. But one other person on YouTube writes, actually, these disappearances are a drama of the BNP. The BNP, of course, being the opposition, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. So that seems to be the pushback people have. What do you make of that back and forth there, Debbie?
The people who disappeared are not just members of the BNP or supporters of the BNP. They are ordinary people who may have spoken up on something. Some of them are labor activists. Some of them are students. Some of them people simply express their opinion on Facebook. They're not aligned to a political party. So I don't think we can say, oh, this is a manufactured situation. The reality is that there are hundreds of families out there in Bangladesh still grieving and wondering what's happened to their loved ones. And all the government can do is simply deny, obfuscate, and blame the victims, and even threaten their families with more enforced disappearance. The reality is that enforced disappearance is a crime against humanity. And it's time the government of Bangladesh actually did something, and in a very transparent and systematic way, instead of obfuscating.
I think at this point in our conversation, it's you want to hear from the government of Bangladesh because there are so many accusations and they're reluctant to talk about it, apart from earlier on this year when Gaurav Rizvi, who's a senior advisor to the Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, was on head-to-head with Mehdi Hassan from Al Jazeera. Now, before I play that clip, I want to show you something. This is a Free Arman campaign, and you can see the number of days since he was abducted. Arman is a barrister, a Bangladeshi barrister, Ahmad bin Qasem, but he's known to his friends as Arman. So his lawyer, during head-to-head, asked, well, this question. Let's roll the tape.
When will the Bangladesh government stop pushing the ridiculous line that the disappearances are not happening? And when will these men be released so they can return to their family?
Okay. When disappearances happen, it is deplorable. But I have also said that this is not a government policy of removing people.
So where is his client?
I wouldn't know. Since you are the lawyer, you tell us, where is your client? You tell us.
Go on, do you want to respond?
And with proof.
There was credible evidence he was being held in Dhaka cantonment, a military base in the middle of Dhaka. And that's credible evidence from foreign embassies. And your government knows where he is. No one believes that you don't.
No.
Tasneem, you were in that audience. Let's talk about where these disappeared people are apparently going.
Well, we know about at least 3 secret prisons in Dhaka city. There are 2 inside the Dhaka cantonment, a military base, the headquarters of Bangladesh military. They're the headquarters of the DGFI. There are several holding units inside the headquarters compound. Then there is a holding facility, a secret prison in another part of the cantonment. It's called DETT, the DGFI's old headquarter. And then there is RAB 1 headquarter in Uttara near the airport. So we know about these 3 secret detention facilities, which are absolutely illegal, not only under international law, but also under Bangladeshi law. And
Tasneem, this may be a very naive question, but what happens there? What do you know is happening to people there?
Well, at least in case of the RAB 1 headquarter in Uttara, I actually used to live right behind it many years back. It is a torture chamber, and the Guardian newspaper actually ran an investigative report about that. You know, people's fingernails being plucked out. I have documented cases where people were tortured with drill machines. But, you know, in a very cynical way, there was a time when they used to torture people, kill them, and return those bodies to the families. But now they simply, dispose of the bodies, and they don't even let the families know what happened to their loved ones. So in a very cynical, in a very sad way, no dead bodies are actually worse than having dead bodies with torture marks. And this is what is exactly happening in Bangladesh today. And people like Mr. Gaurav Rizvi are coming on international channels like Al Jazeera and being, they're trying to apologize for this. Mr. Rizvi actually promised during that show, I was in the audience, that there will be investigations, and I knew that there will be no investigations. He's simply, promising something that he cannot deliver
We
on,
have not
because
seen,
this is state policy. Sorry,
last
Sanjita,
6
go
years
on.
we have not seen any investigation last 6 years, and there are plenty of examples. People were abducted and came back after 2 years, after 3 years, after 15 months, and they shared the secret detention cells, what is happening over there, and how they binding their eyes, and how they are doing the torture inside the cell, and the people who are under the torch, on those cells, actually, they even don't know where they are, how they are moving from one place to another places. So I can say, like, we have seen Salahuddin, who was found other side of the border. So how come one person abducted by the law enforcement agencies in Bangladesh in Dhaka, and then he is found later on in other country around beside the border? That there are plenty of examples what happened, and government should reply on those. Actually, government, the way it's the average way they're replying, that people are hiding themselves.
Sanjida, that story that you just told us and the anecdotes that we just heard from Tasneem, as horrific as they are, explain these two tweets that I want to share with you from Mohammed Firdaus, who says authoritarian regimes use lots of tools to suppress opposition voices and people. The reason behind using these tools is to create a reign of terror among people, so that people will think twice before raising their voices or taking part in any protest against the regime. We are always scared to speak out against the regime because of this widespread use of disappearances, because family members of victims are put in an adverse situation. They don't know whether their relative is alive or dead, and it's very painful to think about. So, Sanjida, it is not difficult, we know, for you to be able to be part of an organization that's so public, speaking about something like this. Do you face threats, you and your mother?
Always. We are facing that threat for the last 6 years. And when we started standing for the human chain, or started campaigning for my brother's case, as officially we couldn't file any application or case, so we have started doing the human chain and press conferences, so that that comes to their, in front of them, so that they can do anything, and so that they can actually clarify in front of public what they're saying. They are elected or selected government.
Sanjida, may I ask you that? I'm going to show everybody a little bit of the report that we did with you earlier on this year, and there's a picture of you. Your brother is always close to you, literally very close to you. Have a look here on my laptop, everybody, so you can see what I see on my laptop. There you go. Great. Your brother is always close to you. There's a picture of your brother. Do you know where he is right now?
I still believe he's alive. They have abducted, and they have taken him to RAB 1 office, and few officials have shared with us that he was taken from RAB 1 to RAB headquarters custody on 2013, and they were keeping him in secret cells, actually. So I still believe, as he's
you feel that he's alive.
He's alive, and I want my brother back. I want my brother back, because only supporting the opposition party, being an activist for the opposition party, cannot be a reason to be disappeared.
Debbie, let me share this with you. Again, we're going back to the statement that the government of Bangladesh sent to us. And they put this whole issue in context from their perspective. Since the 2016 terror attack on Dhaka's Holy Artisan Bakery, individuals seeking to join banned extremist organizations or who left Bangladesh to join jihadist groups have been using the term enforced disappearances to conceal their actions. That last sentence really leapt out at me. Your response to that is what?
It's a very cynical use of the fear of terrorism to once again deny that there's such a thing as enforced disappearances. These enforced disappearances were happening before 2016, and they're happening right now. And what they have done to Sanjida and all these families is not only threatening them or denying them or marginalizing them, they've also been torturing them by implying that if families kept quiet, then maybe their loved ones will be returned. And so when the women of Mayer Daak are going out there and standing out and calling for the return of their loved ones, they are doing that under the threat that somehow speaking out will actually prevent their family members from being returned. That's a particular torture.
That's where we're going to leave it. Tasneem and Sanjida, thank you very much for telling us what is happening from your perspective to the enforced disappeared in Bangladesh. Thank you so much for joining us. Malika and I will join you again on the stream, but in the meantime, you can always see us at AJ Stream on Twitter. See you next time.